the owner and operator of the Salesforce Transit Center, which is one of 3 components of the Transbay program. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome you all here to the Transit Center. If you stood in this spot 20 years ago, you would have been in an outdated, dilapidated transit facility, damaged by the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake, and surrounded by underutilized property. As a San Francisco native, when I was growing up, this was not an area to come to. In fact, it was dark and it was deserted. Now, in its place, is a beautiful multimodal transit facility that will connect 11 transit systems to not only provide an integrated Bay Area transit system, but it is the northern terminus for California high-speed rail, which will connect the Bay Area to Southern California. Additionally, in delivering the second component of the Transbay program, we created a transit-oriented neighborhood full of vitality with families and kids and open space, including a 5.4-acre rooftop park just 4 levels above us. 20 years ago, when TJPA was given a mandate to build this modern multimodal transportation center, create a new transit-oriented community where people live, work, and shop within walking distance of public transportation, and extend rail service into downtown San Francisco, most people said the project was too big, too complex, and too ambitious to succeed. Speaker Pelosi stood apart from those people and became the Transbay program's most ardent champion. She believed in the vision of the program and secured the legislative, and she scoured the legislative landscape for the early funding that allowed us to do our planning and environmental work of $10 million, which was the seed money that it resulted in that of this transit center. And in 2010, she was a driving force behind the Obama administration's decision to provide $400 million to build the train box that extends 4 blocks long and 2 levels below street level, which we are standing in today. She has been with us every step of the way. In fact, her handprint is literally embedded in the very foundation of this building. With the train box built, it is no longer a matter of if, but when rail center. So now with 2 of 3 components of the Transbay program executed, we are working to complete the vision of the Transbay program with Speaker Pelosi's continued support. With our local, regional, and operating partners, including Caltrain and High Speed Rail, we are working to deliver blended rail service into downtown San Francisco and connect riders from all parts of the Bay Area, including the North Bay, East Bay, and the Peninsula and South Bay, and ultimately to the state through the Downtown Rail Extension Project. This project will bring communities together closer. It will reduce climate change impacts and provide an expanded and integrated transportation system as an important link into the downtown San Francisco from the Caltrain system and the statewide rail system. We are ready to build on the current momentum to deliver this project, especially as the project was just accepted into the Federal Transit Administration's Capital Investment Grants Funding Program. More good news. The construction of the Transit Center created over 24,000 construction jobs, not only locally and regionally, but nationally, with work in over 47 of the 50 states throughout the country, contributing to this major infrastructure project. We expect the Downtown Rail Extension, the 3rd and final component of the Transbay program, to also create more jobs and spur economic activity and recovery. The Transit Center is the epitome of a great transformational infrastructure project. It is our privilege to host this event today to celebrate the great infrastructure investments made here at the Salesforce Transit Center, and as we look forward to the transformational infrastructure investments to come. I'm honored to introduce the person who has been instrumental in the efforts to get us to where we are today, Speaker Pelosi.
Thank you so much, very much, for your very kind words of Executive Director Gonzalez. I love to see women in power like that, especially. I accept on behalf of the House Democrats and now President Biden as well for making so much of this possible. You gave some of the history of what it was and how it came to be. I just want to add a little bit to that. First of all, let me say I'm so excited about this morning for what it means. I'm so honored to be here with my colleague Jackie Spear, who's been champion from the Bay to Trans-Bay and everything that implies, and of course to be here with Mark Saunier, who was on the transportation. More on all of that as we go along. But just to put it in context, when he was in the state legislature, John Burton was instrumental in the transfer of land for the center to be on this spot. So let's acknowledge that. And part of that, at least 35% of that would be for affordable housing. Thank you, John Burton. Let's put this in some time. Beautifully, you characterized it in values and the rest. But in time, on August 11th, 2010, Trans-Bay Terminal groundbreaking with the mayor, with the Secretary of Hood in the Obama administration, Mayor Newsom, Senator Boxer, and George Miller, who he was the predecessor to Mr. Saunier on education and labor. They both served, which was very much a part of this in terms of who would do the building. And then that was August 2010. September 2013, Mayor Lee and I, joint effort, had our hands imprinted into the cement. And it was a wonderful day. This is easy, but we were climbing over. I mean, I can't do that too well. But all of our friends in labor were there. And it was a big labor occasion as well to make that transition. Then, 3 years later, March 2016, Trans-Bay Center distinctive unveiling of the awning. Again, another step in its progress. And then 2018, Salesforce Transit Center tour, the ribbon cutting center. So get the ground, break the ground, the construction along the way to give the reports, and it was really beautiful. The creativity of it all was so lovely. It was really, this building is a work of art. So in any event, here we are today. And here we are today in something very important because, again, Director Gonzalez from the Trans-Bay Joint Powers Authority, and then Latifah Simon from the Director of BART Board, Michelle Bouchard, Acting Director of Caltrain, and Brian Kelly, CEO of High Speed Rail Authority. All of these entities, many of you on these boards, all of it so important to this magnificent achievement. I want to also thank our other members of the Bay Area, Zoe Lofgren, of course Jackie, and Eshu was here a couple weeks ago when we did, one of our Democrats delivered a presentation. She talked about how $4 billion in the Build Back, not the Build Back Better, the bill that's already signed, the bipartisan infrastructure bill would be here. Barbara Lee talked about what it means across the Bay, and Jared Huffman in terms of how we're doing this in a green way. And of course, Mark Saunier was with us then, but our Bay Area members have all been a part of that. I'm taking a little time because this has taken some time, and there's a lot of credit to attribute. The Salesforce Trans Center is a testament to the truth that this is one of the most important public dollars that we can spend. Because what does it do? It builds infrastructure, which improves the quality of life. More people are taking public transportation, clean air for our children, less time in cars for their families, improves the quality of life. It promotes commerce in every possible way, whether moving people to work, to and from, but also product and the rest, writ large, the infrastructure, children to school, all of it about family and doing so with good paying union jobs. Protections in the legislation, delivering a better quality of life, I said, advancing equity, this being done in a new, fresh way, not like a road going through a neighborhood and dividing the community of interest, but instead breaking down all of those barriers to community common interest, and to do so in a way that is promotes environmental justice, and again, connecting our communities. So while this is this structure here, what is implied by it in the community and the rest is just remarkable, transformational, and really historic. That's why when the COVID pandemic hit, we insisted in the CARES Act and then following that, when President Biden became president in the American Rescue Package, that we would keep our transit systems running, that we would save transit operators' jobs in doing so, that we would secure transportation vital for essential workers, providing, now this is an important number in that bill, our bill that we did with President, $70 billion in federal transit support, including $4 billion for the San Francisco Bay Area, for Bay Area transit operators, that's here. As Anna said at her press conference, guaranteed $4 billion. But President Biden had the vision to know that our nation needed not only to build, but to build back better. And the Build Back Better agenda, which we're awaiting the actions of the Senate, is the biggest, boldest investment, the two of them together, in our country's history, including a once-in-a-generation investments in infrastructure writ large. We celebrate the bipartisan infrastructure law, which secures historic investments to rebuild America, including the largest ever investments to do this. Moderate our nation's transit and replace aging infrastructure, combat the climate crisis, taking cars off the road to lower emissions from the transportation, and advance equity, expanding transit options, particularly communities of color, and improving accessibility for seniors and people with disabilities. That's very important to us. Yesterday we had the ceremony for Senator Dole, who was a champion on the Americans with Disabilities Act. That was an expansion of freedom that our Constitution may not have imagined, but that's made possible in that way. And for California, we have specifically secured $10 billion for state transit agencies. Now, I'm giving you all of this because this is really change. This is really different. And under President Amtrak Joe, self-described in that day before, Friday, the funeral we had in the Capitol, they asked Senator Dole, when he was the majority leader, Republican leader in the Senate, why did you give all that money to Amtrak? And he said, because that was the best way to keep Joe Biden to go home every night. He used an expletive to describe it. I won't go there. And it's interesting to note that it's the biggest investment in passenger rail since Amtrak's creation. China already has 22,000 miles of high-speed rail, which will double by 2035. Japan has had high-speed rail for nearly 60 years. And now America will invest in bringing world-class rail across the country, upgrading and expanding Amtrak, investing in new passenger rail improvements like California high-speed rail. Brian will be talking about that. Securing billions for grade crossings improvements, grade crossing improvements to end traffic collisions, fatalities, and injuries. Security is really a very important part of infrastructure. It makes our bridges safer, it makes our transportation safer, and the rest. So again, if I'm going on long, it's because I would go longer if I didn't stick to my notes. I just went on talking about it all. And now we'll Build Back Better Act, most historic legislation for working families in the century, jobs, bigger union jobs, higher paying jobs, lower cost, cuts taxes, make the wealthiest and big corporations pay their fair share. Build Back Better accelerates investments in infrastructure again, $10 billion for new transit initiatives to support access to affordable housing. We in California know it's expensive to live someplace. In order for people to have access to jobs, they have to have faster access from home, where housing is affordable. So the connection between transit and housing, very seriously recognized. Maxine Waters and Peter DeFazio work together to make that happen. And $10 billion specifically dedicated to high-speed rail, which I did mention. And will not repeat the planning mistakes of the past, because this will be about the future. Over a decade ago, this, as was mentioned, was a rundown terminal that was no longer worthy of the innovative transit city that San Francisco is. Under President Obama and then Vice President Joe Biden, in the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, which was a Democratic initiative in the Congress, we were able to break ground, build the trans box below, $400 million, as was indicated in that bill, to build $400 million to build that was in that legislation, and enjoy now taking us to where we are today. But our work is never complete. We always want more, and with the investments made possible by President Biden, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill, Build Back Better Bill, what we did in the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act under President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden will bring Caltrans high-speed rail into this center in the heart of downtown San Francisco. And so there we are. Now, I afforded myself that luxury because it represents so much work by so many people, our legislators, those staff, the communities, the intellectual resource that you all are. So I hope every one of you takes pride in the role that you played, because it's complex. There are many considerations that go into this, and you're going to hear more about it all from our distinguished guest. And it's my privilege now to yield to Lateefah Simon, a director of the BART Board of Directors, a national recognized advocate for civil rights and racial justice, a powerhouse of progress in the Bay Area, in education, policing, youth service, tech, and so much more. So you see how all of this comes together and what we are talking about today. Lateefah, I yield the floor to you.
You know, it's not every day that you get to stand next to your childhood heroes. Like Neela, I grew up in San Francisco, and I remember the Greyhound station and the Carl's Jr. Anybody remember all of that? My name is Lateefah Simon, and I'm so honored to be one of the directors of 9 directors for Bay Area Rapid Transit. I'm here with my BART family and our transit community. What a moment. What a moment. Like many of you all who love transit, I love transit. I've never driven a car. I'm legally blind. And as a mother of 2, transportation equity is, to me, transportation justice. It is about folks being able not only to go to and fro, but folks to be able to be a part of the civil society that we are continuously building. My grandmother also said, give people their flowers. So I just want to take a minute. We're going to talk about the bipartisan infrastructure law. But I want to tell you, as president of Bay Area Rapid Transit during COVID, I was really happy until the shutdown. I was president of one of the most amazing transportation systems in the United States until everyone had to go into their homes. The day after the shutdown, our office called Congresswoman Pelosi's office, Congresswoman Jackie Spears' office, all of our delegation, Mark DeSanye's office, and they got busy. You ensured that not one day during the pandemic that our trains were stopped, that essential workers day in and day out had the opportunity to use transit. There was never a day during the darkest moments of our pandemic did BART employees lose their jobs. Not one day. You worked extremely hard, being extremely clear that during the pandemic, our data shows, and it's very clear, the folks who are using BART today, while our ridership is extremely low, it's growing, but it's extremely low, the folks who are using Bay Area Rapid Transit daily are low income, lack access to vehicles, and are our essential workers. We know that there is no building back of an economy without equitable, safe, and affordable transit. Our congressional delegation knew that. They went to work, and in our darkest moments, we continued to ride. What we're so excited about, Speaker, is your commitment to ensure that the Bay Area can compete for funds so that we make decisions, create opportunities, not only for better jobs, not only for safe transit, not only for reliable opportunities, but for the next generation of transit riders to be a part of a world-class Bay Area. San Jose is not enough. High-speed transit is not enough. We gotta go all out. This, as you said, is a moment in history. So not only for disabled folks and people of color, for young people now who wanna experience a California that is extremely accessible, we're doing the work. We're doing the work, and we want to thank you all so much for fighting that good fight. Transportation is typically the last in line to get opportunities for new resources. BART is a 50-year-old system, but today, in this moment, we can actually envision a future where not only we compete with our neighbors and our friends on the eastern board of the world, but that truly our system will be the coin of pride. Thank you so much, Speaker.
Said before, Jackie Spear, a champion unsurpassed in her advocacy for all things California and our country. And let me just say, as they bring her up here, when we're passing the defense bill, we will have new provisions in there that relate to stopping violence against women in the military. Would not have been possible without Jackie Spear.
Madam Speaker, we're here today because the Democrats and a few enlightened Republicans delivered for the American people through the BIF, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act. But more importantly, the Speaker of the House of Representatives delivered for all the American people. And I got to tell you, she is always very careful to make sure that she's not criticized for creating an imbalance in terms of resources that come to California versus the rest of the country. But she always makes sure that we get our fair share. And I got to say, $400 million to build the box. She's going to have a lot of things named after her. There's a beautiful street in Golden Gate Park. Something's got to be named after her in this great edifice. And to Director Gonzalez, who said this was big and complex, yes, it is big and complex, and it is beautiful. It's also 100 years late in getting here. When you think about it, think about big cities around the country. New York, Chicago, Washington. They have these complexes already. Finally, we are going to get this for the American people. The San Francisco to San Jose is going to be faster and more available because we have created this system. I think about the fact that we have in this bill billions of dollars. It's hard to read my notes here because it's so dark in here. Billions of dollars for the bus systems, for electrification of buses. One of the biggest companies in the nation is in Burlingame, Proterra, building electric buses. Money is going to come into this region for that purpose as well, some $5 billion. There is going to be more money for fuel that is alternative fuel. So $7.5 billion for alternative fuels and for charging stations across this country as well. So this is a great moment for all of us to recognize that we are going to be creating 1 million jobs a year just in the infrastructure package. 1 million jobs a year. In this region, in San Mateo County, over the next 5 years, there will be 106,000 new jobs created. Think about that. There's only going to be 25,000 new housing units created in that time frame in San Mateo County. So how are people going to get to their jobs? They're going to get to their jobs through public transit, through rapid transit, through this very system. And so we are indeed very fortunate that all of this is coming to be. But let's remember that this is the biggest investment in infrastructure in the history of this country for at least 70 years. We have neglected it. And now, finally, we are taking steps to fix it. Thanks in great part to the Speaker of the House and to President Biden for their vision. So, the electrification of Caltrain is a great component of this. $900 million came into that project. It has the capacity of taking away the equivalent of 6 traffic lanes on 101 and 280 by putting people into Caltrain. This is what the new electrified Caltrain is going to look like. And it's now my great pleasure to introduce the acting director of Caltrain, Michelle Bouchard.
Thank you so much. I had the pleasure of riding on one of those trains about 3 weeks ago. It was slightly larger than that, just so you know. I have to pinch myself a little bit. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd be standing between Speaker Pelosi and Congresswoman Spear. My name is Michelle Bouchard. I'm the acting director of Caltrain. I'm so honored to be here in the Salesforce Transit Center today to celebrate investment in infrastructure in our incredible congressional leadership. I want to especially thank Pelosi and Congressman Spear, sorry, Speaker Pelosi. We're not on a last name basis here. Okay, for their tireless efforts to make the bipartisan infrastructure law a reality. Caltrain serves community members throughout the Bay Area from San Francisco to Gilroy and provides connections to some of the region's largest employers, universities, and healthcare institutions. And we are so proud of how Caltrain has continued to serve essential workers and those on the front lines of the pandemic throughout the entire pandemic. It has dramatically impacted Caltrain ridership, and like BART, we too are growing back. And it is only from the critical support of the federal government that Caltrain has been able to not miss one day of service during the pandemic, and we continue to survive during this time because of it. Looking forward, we are focused on the completion of the Caltrain electrification project. We've been under construction since 2017, and we will be in revenue service in 2024. Before that, our brand new train will come to the peninsula on our test track in 2022, and we'll be so pleased to host an event so all of you can come see our fabulous new trains. It's a transformational project that will deliver on the Biden administration's key priorities. Electrification will reduce emissions and provide more frequent and equitable service throughout the corridor, all while creating jobs across the country. The bipartisan infrastructure law is critical in helping us get this project moving further ahead and getting it over the finish line. Looking beyond electrification, our 2040 service vision for Caltrain includes ambitious plans for fully electric service in the corridor from San Francisco to Gilroy, building world-class stations here in San Francisco, in San Jose, and delivering important safety improvements such as grade separations throughout the corridor. I'm grateful for our continued and ongoing partnership with the federal government, and I look forward to what we can accomplish for Bay Area infrastructure with the passing of this historic legislation. Next, as our Caltrain electrification project lays the foundation for high-speed rail, I'm so happy to please welcome Brian Kelly, the CEO of California High-Speed Rail.
Thank you, Michelle, and Madam Speaker, you're going to hear me say thank you a lot during the speech. I actually want to thank you just for recounting the history of this building, because for me, today's kind of a full circle day. I've lived in Sacramento now for 25 years. I work up there, but I grew up here, and I grew up in Diamond Heights. I went to Glen Park Elementary. I went to high school in Mark DeSaulni's district. I worked for Mark DeSaulni and Jackie Spear in the state senate, and I pray every day, thankfully, for Nancy Pelosi. So that's my life. Yes, and actually when you said, yes, when you talked about John Burton's bill on the parcels here, I staffed that bill for John Burton. So again, it just feels like I'm back home, and it's good to be home. So good morning. I am Brian Kelly, the CEO of the California High-Speed Rail Authority. And again, I want to thank Speaker Pelosi and our entire congressional delegation for their leadership in getting that historic bipartisan infrastructure bill not just passed through the House, but really the power to get it enacted into law. I think perhaps lost in the focus on how or when the vote might have occurred is the truly historic substance in the legislation. And I'm happy you took a moment to go through that, because just the funding programs that my agency intends to compete for at high-speed rail, the bill added some $57 billion over the next 5 years that we intend to compete for with others, and we will compete for that. And that, to us, is game-changer stuff. It's a big deal for us. That provides great opportunity for all of us, all of our partnership here, to advance our collective work and our projects to bring better, cleaner, and faster transit to Californians and Bay Area residents. And I appreciate the opportunity to join my colleagues in rail and transit from around the Bay Area in this beautiful center today. In the Bay Area, there's tremendous opportunity for my agency to work with our local partners to bring this new federal money home so we can invest in joint benefit projects that improve transit and rail service for our citizens. What am I talking about when I say joint benefit projects? Well, you heard a little bit about the electrification of Caltrain. We can now work together toward electrifying the entire Caltrain corridor between San Francisco and Gilroy and replace all the diesel trains that Caltrain runs and prepare the corridor for the coming high-speed rail service. We can improve safety in the San Francisco-San Joaquin corridor by getting more of those important grade separations done that the speaker mentioned. And of course, we can advance our collective work to see commuter and high-speed rail service serve this beautiful facility in this world-class city. So for high-speed rail, this new law and the pending Build Back Better bill are big-time game changers. They give us the opportunity to leverage federal funds with state and regional dollars to build more of the system that we're working hard to build. With it, we can ensure the initial operating segment in the Central Valley, which is just under 200 miles currently under construction, will be a 2-track system right out of the gate to improve safety and improve operations from day one. We can make sure that PACE and Amtrak meet high-speed rail trains at a single station location in Merced to improve the connections between the Central Valley and the Bay Area. Moreover, we can ensure that California will be home to the nation's first truly high-speed rail service running on 100% renewable power, and that is the right. And of course, as everybody here knows, and certainly these leaders know, that is the right transportation investment in this era of climate change. Most importantly, we can continue building a project that's putting thousands of men and women to work in the Central Valley on good-paying jobs that support families. Since we started construction, we've created about 7,000 construction jobs just in the Central Valley, and we are dying to expand that opportunity and this legislation. One more thing I'll just say about the expansion of our project. By July this year, we'll have environmentally cleared 2 of the segments that get us from the Central Valley to the Bay Area, Merced to San Jose, and San Jose up to San Francisco. So we have a lot of work in front of us, and I'm confident that with the strong federal and regional partnership that we have built together, we'll be able to advance the project from the Central Valley to the Bay Area. And as Secretary Buttigieg just said earlier this week, America has lagged behind in making investments in high-speed rail, but if we want to see economic competitiveness in the country as a whole, we need to make these big investments. He said, I'm proud to say, California is leading the way to make that happen, and he's absolutely right, and California is leading the way because of the visionary leadership of Madam Speaker and our congressional delegation. So, for the bottom of my heart, on behalf of the High-Speed Rail Authority, Governor Newsom, thank you all. This is very important. With that, I'm honored to introduce a guy that I worked for in Sacramento. When I first met him, he was the Assembly Transportation Committee Chair. He then became the Senate Transportation Committee Chair. He then became the Congressman. I grew up in his district. He's a great man, a great leader. Mark DeSalman.
Thank you. I was a little concerned when I wore my fleece today. I'd be underdressed, and I got here and saw Brian wore one too. So thank you, Brian. I hear he said he's here to help. He's been helping me all the time. I really wanted to be here, as I just mentioned to our wonderful speaker. I want to be here because this is a celebration for all of us. And this is really historic. And I don't think I'm given to hyperbole, although sometimes in regards to the speaker I get in trouble because I am, but forgive me. But I want to thank her first for her tenacity and her vision. And it is not just hers, but it's California's. But she is in a long tradition, like John Burton and others and George Miller, of continuing that vision and tenacity through difficult times. So thank you, Nancy Pelosi, so much. Speaking of tenacity, I'm going to miss you. Jackie, what a wonderful colleague. So determined. Don't look at me like that. You make me feel guilty. But what wonderful colleagues. So it really is a celebration. To Latifah, thank you so much for your passionate articulation of why this is so important to everybody in diversity. Thank you for your words, Michelle. Thank you. Really wonderful, wonderful. This is, Brian and I were talking about how, and we're dating ourselves, but this is the federal government coming back to where it was supposed to be for decades. That Californians and Bay Area taxpayers and residents and commuters and families have voted to tax themselves over and over again. Self-help counties in all of our counties, fighting for supermajorities, they've done it. Regional measure 1, 2, and 3, right? You help write those. So regionally, we taxed ourselves. The state, we've taxed ourselves. While we've waited for the federal government, with the hard work of Nancy Pelosi and our delegation fighting to let the rest of the country know that what happens in California happens in the rest of the country is important. Our vision is the country's vision. So now, finally, that 75-25% starts to change, and for future generations. So we believe, collectively, that California deserves a world-class passenger rail system, intercity rail, regional rail, BART, Caltrain, ex-urban that we're now struggling with in places like the district I represent, Capital Corridor, the Altamont, eventually Pacheco. We're going to build those out. And then lastly, key component is high-speed rail. That's a world-class transportation system that affects everyone's quality of life. And that's what this bill starts to do. And then Build Back Better, for all of moms in the audience, they completely understand, as a single parent, whose kids are raised now, that child care is part of infrastructure. And then lastly, the people who built this center, where we sit, are going to build for future generations. The men and women, the diverse representatives and workers of the California building trades, the carpenters and laborers, and the AFL-CIO and the Teamsters, they're going to build this, and they're going to build it for generations. And as Maxine Waters, thank you, Madam Speaker, for bringing her up, would walk around the floor in our inimitable style and go up to Peter DeFazio and others and say, remember, housing is infrastructure. We're going to build housing for future generations to be able to live here. So all of this, and we're not going to leave anyone behind. So the 5 refineries in my area that pay good union wages and benefits right now, they're coming along with us. They're not only coming along with us, they're building this. So when America, California, the Bay Area leads the world, we're going to surpass China like we have for years, but we're going to compete with them and beat them in changing our energy source. So we end this legacy, we continue this legacy, and preserve this blessed planet and place that we represent. They're going to build it. And the people who have built it before are going to continue to build it for future generations. So as I said, the last one, Californians aren't afraid of the future. We run towards it. Right here, we're adding our part of that stewardship for future generations. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
When we talk about all the things that are in this legislation, we do not go down this road to make this point, to win the day, to do so in a way that diminishes the prospect for workers. In this legislation, we have workforce development. We had a Democrats Deliver event a couple of weeks ago with the Friends and Labor and the rest. We talked at a union hall, union training center, the Joseph Mazzola Union, Plumbers Union Center, where we were seeing young people being trained, apprenticed in how to engage in these very important jobs. So the fact that these will be Davis-Bacon, good-paying jobs is really essential to its success. Because when we say prevailing wage, people say, well, is it more expensive? We say, no, it's not more expensive. It's more quality. And we're doing it right. And really central to that is that we're very honored to have with us Rudy Gonzalez. He was with us then, he's with us now. Because as you see, this is complicated. We have shared values. There are lots of ideas about how to fulfill them. You all have been a part of that. And that's why we can succeed nationally, because we have ideas of national significance. There are leadership roles on how to get things done. And that's why California is so frequently the first. And then, as Mr. DeSaulnier said, pay attention to what we're doing, because you may be doing it very soon. And with that, I'm really honored to yield the floor to a person who brings it all together. Excuse me. And you're right about this light. I got a light blazing on to print this small. Rudy Gonzalez, Secretary Treasurer of the Building and Construction Trades Council.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. All of the transit directors and elected officials, people ask me, what are those mysterious green jobs? What is workforce development? What is it that you all do? Look around you. This infrastructure, the sustainability, the resiliency, the investment, and the coordination. This is an example of what green jobs can be. Knowing that workers today are struggling, and in our city and in our region for economic recovery, they're yearning, they're excited to get to work. We can put them to work with projects like this. High-speed rail isn't something that people just talk about in the press. It's real. It's here under the directorship of Nila Gonzalez, and I have to shout out Dennis, the project manager. This work, and if you look around you, it's skilled and trained. It's skilled craftsmanship, and it also means that we're making an investment in tomorrow's workforce. Young Patrick behind me can follow in the footsteps of his sister Sabrina Hernandez or his father John Doherty and know that there's a bright future ahead. And in the union building trades, that means a bright future for everybody. Not just San Francisco natives and not just kids that I grew up with, but it means a bright future for people who are incarcerated today as we sit here. It means kids coming out of foster youth. It means 11th and 12th graders in San Francisco Unified School District and around this region. There will be good jobs to come for years. So we're so grateful to Speaker Pelosi and all of our federal leadership to make sure that resources are coming to real shovel-ready projects, projects that are sustainable, they're green, and they're lifting up all of our community with good family-sustaining wages, health care in a global pandemic, and for the end users are continuing this path of good jobs and our transit operators and all of our siblings who actually come to work every day as essential workers. And the final note that I'll make is that Sacramento has a role to play. Sacramento has a role to play with vision and leadership because our federal leaders have stepped up to the plate. Nancy Pelosi's name is invoked every day in the media, and she is delivering for California and the American people. Sacramento can do the same and continue and fight to finish the job with high-speed rail. It's green, it's real, and it's happening today. We're honored to be here with you. We're honored for the skilled and trade craftspeople that are put to work today and that will have a promise of tomorrow. Thank you, Nancy Pelosi.
Congress to talk about high-speed rail without talking about Jim Costa, because he has been relentless, dissatisfied, and persistent, and now I'm happy that we have the opportunity in the legislation. He, as a former legislator, as our members are, hopefully will be helpful to us to get what we need at the state level to accommodate what we are doing at the federal level. Rudy mentioned Patrick Darney. Patrick, come here. Some other future, come on kids. Out here. Gotta get our everybody, come in a little closer, because this is about the future. It's about the children. Because as Mark said, Maxine goes around saying, housing is infrastructure, education is infrastructure as well, and school construction and the rest very much a part of it. But job training and again, we want to build back better with women. So in terms of child care, home health care, teaching, yes, we have serious money in the Build Back Better legislation for our teachers. Also, the universal pre-K. So all of this is about, has an integrity to it, a oneness. It's all related, and it's all about the future. It's all about the children. So that you are here is not only an inspiration to us, but a joy, because again, you are the purpose. You are the why all of this is being done. Tell us your name. This is Patrick and Fritz. Patrick and Fritz. They're our VIPs. And they would like to take any questions. I know that we try to anticipate every possible concern or question you might have about how we got here and where we're going from here. But in case you have any further questions, I'd like to start on this subject. Any questions? If I don't see you, it's because we are blinded by the light. No? Okay. Well, thank you all very much. Is that